Hello, everybody, and welcome to It's All Duct Taped Together Daily. And hopefully today's adhesive will keep everything stuck together and nothing will go wrong. How's it going, Paul?
It's going okay. How are you?
You know, it's Friday. I just hit my knee on some cast iron. It's wonderful.
I bet I know where that cast iron's located.
About the same height as my kneecap.
Yep, ideally located. Yep.
But before we dive in here, folks, today's show is brought to you by Cloudberry Lab. Check them out at cloudberrylab.com/FRD, and we'll have a little bit more about them here in a minute. But, Paul, as we were talking right before the show, I don't know if you're familiar with gateway drugs, but we're going to talk about gateway drugs here.
Okay.
And so if you weren't watching right before we did this, why can't I flick? There we go. Before we kick the show off, we were talking about this thing. This is the Sonos One. I did a review of it. Right now, it supports Amazon integration, and as Paul was relearning, whatever you want to call it, by the end of 2018, this thing will support Google Assistant. And so, Paul, I was sitting in my basement yesterday, as I do many days, and I was realizing it's like, I'm now using the Google Calendar, like web app, whatever you want to call it, on my desktop.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's great, right?
Then I can see Google Calendar, or Google is coming to this thing, the Sonos One. And I was like, you know what? This is how it begins. This is how I fully morph over to the Google Assistant, because I'm already using the calendar. I'm already using the email. I'm already using the browser.
Yep.
Yep.
It's, what's the term? It's not stickiness. It's almost like the opposite. It's like slipperiness. It's a slippery slope. It's just easier to stay within that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
And I have no problems with what Amazon is doing, but it's just like, look, by going to that, which offers the same features and everything else that I need, I'm effectively eliminating one platform from my life that would make things a little bit more streamlined at the end of the day.
Yeah. By the way, you just made a really good point. I think this is important for people to understand, because everything is so partisan these days, right? And in the tech world, it's always kind of been like this, Mac versus PC or whatever. When you compliment something or when you use something, it doesn't mean that you hate the other thing, right? And it doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means, it just pragmatically, it made sense to go in this direction. I mean, it's not an indictment against the Amazon stuff. It's just that, there are certain advantages on the Google side, because that's where your day-to-day data is, email, calendar, or whatever. And it's kind of hard to overcome that. It's a problem Microsoft's going to face with productivity software, which is something I just wrote about. It doesn't mean that the other stuff is terrible,
right? Yeah, and I think the pushing point was I didn't like, I was using Newton's calendar app on my phone, but then I can't use it on the desktop, and I was trying to say, hey, I just want one calendar app, and Google is in both places, and then it's like, well, crap. Now I'm already using Google Assistant because I set up a reminder, as many people suggested, at 2:30 p.m. and it says, go pick up your daughter. But more importantly, it tells me the traffic at that time. And then it's like, crap, it'd be really nice is if at 2:30, this little stupid speaker behind me every single day at 2:30 would just chime on and say, go pick up your daughter. The traffic is 19 minutes to get to her. And yeah.
That's the kind of thing that Google does,
right?
Well, it's like, I try to use Mozilla for all Firefox for all the right reasons, right? Aside from the fact that they just made it a lot more performant, aside from the fact that it uses less resources than Chrome does, I kind of like the whole vibe of the thing. We're not ad based. It's, I like it. Like, I get it. But ultimately, it's just more convenient to use Chrome for a million reasons. Part of which is the stuff we just talked about, the service integration, but also, I pin those apps, those websites as apps to my taskbar. I use that feature every day. Like, I rely on it. I don't like not having it.
Yep.
And if I'm going to use two browsers anyway, what's the point?
Yep. And so that was the dark conclusion, if you will. Actually, there was some code in the Google Assistant stuff that says that, I don't know who found it, Android Police or somebody, that says, hey, you're eventually going to be able to rename this thing potentially.
Yeah,
which would be great. And I'll tell you what I will rename it, is the name of the Amazon service, so my wife and child are no longer confused.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to be confused when they go to someone else's house and they actually have the Amazon thing and it can't do anything that they're asking. Well,
they won't experience the fruits of that labor until Sonos decides to make this a reality, which I can only hope that they are pushing towards faster. but I'm not going to hold my breath.
Right.
So, but anyways, back to the actual show notes. One thing that Intel pushed out this week that we haven't talked about yet is that they issued their first what they're calling corrected firmware fixes for the CPU, and I believe it impacts Skylake. Paul, what's your confidence that you're going to install that because it's going to not reboot or corrupt your data?
Yeah, on a scale from 0 to confident, I would say it's about a -17. But I don't remember exactly how you just said it. But they issued their first. I think you said something like their first correction, first corrected patch, whatever. And I was thinking to myself, the first of many. And literally in this case, because it, like you said, it only addresses the Skylake generation of chips. They've got other patches or fixed patches, whatever, coming for other generations as well. And as we have to always discuss with these vulnerabilities, unfortunately, we're going to be patching these things for a long time to come. I think we're going to see revision after revision after revision. So enjoy.
Yeah. So don't,
rapid release.
Choose your own adventure here, folks. I am going to sit this one out for at least a couple weeks because remember they said the last patch was good and then it was like, oh God, there were actually pretty serious ramifications. So
yeah, I don't know if I ever mentioned this, by the way, but I had said somewhere that I have an HP desktop that I'm using that got the original patch and then it wouldn't reboot correctly. And then I have an HP laptop that I actually just reviewed, but I was in the process of reviewing. And it was interesting to me at the time, it was never offered a BIOS patch, for the vulnerability. And it was because the timing was such that the buggy one had gone out and then they pulled it. Right. So I was interested to see that HP delivered a new version of it maybe a week ago or something. And it actually does fix the problem. So I don't know if I actually I should check this. I don't know. It was fixed for Spectre and Meltdown, but it wouldn't reboot correctly. And now it reboots correctly, but I'm actually not sure if it's fixed for this. I should look. I don't know if this was, they might have just removed it. The BIOS fix might have been literally just to take away what Intel had done.
Yep. So that will be an ongoing story. Speaking of another ongoing story, Microsoft it was yesterday announced that Build is going to be in Seattle, which I believe, I don't know if we knew that or officially knew that, but we all kind of figured it was going to be there. We did. It's going to be May 7th through the 9th, which is curiously timed because Google's I.O. is the 8th through the 10th, which means that there's going to be a battle royale, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very safe to say that most developers don't attend either show, so they can stay home and stream, whatever they want, I guess. For people like us, this is a little bit of a problem. And for us specifically, it's not much of a problem. We've only gone to the Microsoft event, obviously. I'd love to go to Google I/O though, and not to be a dick about it, but in many ways, Google I/O is a lot more relevant, frankly, to a lot more developers probably than the Microsoft stuff. But we had known the date for a long time, and I did know Seattle. I thought that was kind of common knowledge. But regardless, when Google announced the dates for I/O, it's like, seriously, like, what are they going to do now? Like, I knew those were the dates, and I figured maybe they'd try if they could, but to change the date. But, when you book venues like that, it's a logistical and financial nightmare, I'm sure, for Microsoft. So the venue that they're at, which is called the Washington State Convention Center or whatever.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
They have a schedule.
Yep.
Things are booked, and who knows? Maybe the Ringling Brothers, Barnum Bailey Circus is in there. Plus or minus 1 week or something. Actually, they don't exist anymore, do they?
I was gonna say I was about to Google. I was like, I thought that was ending.
I think they actually went out of business, or they they retired it or something. Probably because of animal cruelty problems, just like Build. So anyway. Yeah, so we'll be going to Seattle. So we should plan on having some kind of we'll have a meetup or something, I bet.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's a staple of every Build. The one thing that I will point out is that obviously people are like, hey, people are going to be deciding do they want to go to I/O or to Build. Build last year sold out incredibly quickly. Actually, Paul, right. I'm going to wonder if Microsoft is going to go for the back years of having their site crash.
Listen, consistency is not a Microsoft strong point, but I think in this case, yes, they probably will be unable to handle the load. And we'll be listening to complaints from people who said that they tried to register it the first second it became available and they were locked out of the site. And then when they finally got in, it was over.
Yep.
So brace for that. Sorry.
Yeah, actually, if I think I do need to throw Microsoft a bone, but this is still awkward. I believe they farm this out to Event Core. Like, I don't think this is
Um,
actually their registration process. It's
hmm.
obviously hosted on their domain, but they farm out that process, and Event Core is what crashes every.
Yeah, you still got to, I mean, but they're the ones hiring them. I
I
mean,
know.
how many times is it going to crash before maybe we should do this ourselves? If only we had developers that could create a website that could handle developer registrations. you know?
Where I was actually going with that was that the fact that they didn't have any problems selling out last year, even with the competing event, I
Yeah.
suspect that they'll still be able to sell out. It
Oh
was
yeah, no, it's
5,000.
fine. I mean, we
Yeah.
were kind of joking about this on Twitter or whatever. I mean, it's not the developer audience that might be interested in one or the other is humongous. The developer audience that would be super interested in attending both of these things
Mm-hmm.
is got to be tiny. It's
Yep.
just a different kind of thing.
Yep. And speaking of Google, what are they doing? They've got let's see. Oh, they're.
So,
I was like, one just left the Nest, and I was thinking of Twitter. No, but actually, Google is smashing together their Nest hardware team with their own hardware team, and actually, one of their high-profile execs from the Nest team just left.
yeah.
And Paul, you kind of speculated that maybe this is the end of the Nest brand. I go back and
Well,
forth, but it could be the very start of that long journey potentially.
every year someone's going to write a story that goes something like this. Google just did something, and they're proving that they're going to be serious about hardware. And it's like they're combining Nest with the 2,000 people from HTC and whatever hardware team they already had into one Google hardware
Mm-hmm.
team, and that makes total sense to me. I think the next brand can exist. I was interested. The guy you're referring to, I don't know his name, but I think he was a co-founder of Nest, who is leaving the company, but he's actually staying for some period of time. And the quote that he provided was very interesting because he talked about how he was guiding the strategy for Google's 2019 hardware lineup.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now I don't know if what that means. In other words, I think of the stuff that's coming out in the fall as the 2018 line. But if you think about it, that stuff goes on sale from then through the end of the year typically.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they consider that 2019, right? That would make a little more sense to me.
Yeah, it
But
would.
than to be than to literally mention publicly, I'm not working on the next one. I'm working on the
Right.
one after that, and then I'm leaving. That seemed so. I don't know. I can only speculate what that means, but interesting.
Yep. One of the other rumors about Google I/O, by the way, that popped up, I think it was this morning, is that they might truly finally, I probably said this exact sentence 7 times prior to this event, but going to take on iMessage with a unified SMS platform that would allow you to send text messages from the web
Yeah.
using your phone and all that stuff, which is a la iMessage. Maybe this will be the year that Apple wakes up and realizes that, hey, there's finally competition, but we will
Yeah.
see.
Well, there isn't so far. I mean, when you say something like Google is the next Microsoft, you can make that work on any number of levels. And one of them is this kind of thing where they release 17 different versions of apps that kind of do the same thing instead of having a single cohesive product that makes sense. And they need that badly. So hopefully that does happen.
Yeah, because we could list them off, but this is a family-friendly show, and we're trying not to stay here for 4 hours. One other quick note here: VLC, if which you use that application, I do myself. 3.0 is now available for Windows, Mac, Linux, Android, iOS, Android TV, Apple TV, and Chrome OS. It's got a whole bunch of new features, including support for HDR, 360-degree videos, importantly, Chromecast support, and high DPI on Windows 10, and a lot more. So if you're a VLC fan or you're just looking for a media player, you really can't go wrong there. And the next show notes quite literally say, Paul got something.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually downloading VLC right now because I used to use that app a lot and I loved it. As high DPI became a thing, it just got stupid. So I've been just using the Microsoft stuff just to play videos. It's like whatever, but I'm gonna put this on right now. Yeah. So let me see, where's this thing? So I'm gonna move the window so I can see what I'm doing here. So I got a little box today in the mail. Can you see it? Can you see it? Can you see it?
What is that?
It's a phone. Let me show you. It literally just arrived as we were starting the podcast. It is a Huawei, Mate 10 Pro. So this is a dual camera, 6-inch, 18:9 awesomeness. I was hoping for like a cool color. I think it's just
Isn't there
black.
something like Microsoft AI about that phone?
Yeah, and actually, Rich Woods helped me understand what that meant, because one of the things they call out in their reviewer's guide, which I was looking at yesterday, is that it says if you bring your phone internationally, you can translate between 50 different languages using Microsoft Translate. And I thought that's kind of odd. Why would they use the Microsoft Translate? There, it's a Google, like an Android phone. I mean, why not just use Google Translate or whatever? And I guess it's because Microsoft made a version of the app that was custom tailored for the microprocessor that they use in the system. It's not a Huawei processor, but it's not a Snapdragon. It's something different, and I think it's called Kirin. Let me just see if I can find it real quick. I cannot. So I don't remember the name of the processor. Sorry, but it's Snapdragon. And so I looked it up yesterday, and it's roughly the same level of performance as a Snapdragon 835. So it's concurrent to the, what I would now call the previous gen of flagship phones. And there's a bunch of custom AI chip stuff going on in here too, which is kind of interesting. I think that's how they spy on the United States government, because, it's a Chinese company. But just kidding. I am just kidding. Actually, I hate that xenophobia stuff. But anyway, this is a phone I'm actively interested in. I was almost drawn to the Note 8 for obvious reasons. I'm now looking forward to the S9 stuff that's coming soon. But this is like one of the remaining flagship phones that's out in the world right now that I've not tried. Of course, we live in the United States, so it's actually kind of hard to get these devices, unfortunately. So I'm really, really excited to review this. So I will have a write-up about this, like a first impressions thing today or tomorrow. And then in a couple of weeks, I'll have a review.
Well, there we go. And while you're looking up all that or playing with that, I'm actually somewhat jealous. Let's take a quick chat about Cloudberry Lab here. As you're probably well aware, if you've been listening to this podcast for any length of time, they've been a sponsor for a while, and they're definitely worth checking out at cloudberrylab.com/FRD. Basically, you can bring your own data and bring your own cloud. You've got Google Cloud. It supports literally, I think, every cloud that you can think of. You've got even like Backblaze, you've got Google Cloud, you've got Azure, you've got Amazon AWS, and you can put your data up there, and you're not locked in. That's the nice thing about this. We all know that data prices in the cloud change, and what's nice about their product is that as that happens, you can just move it around and protect yourself from ransomware and all that good stuff. Has encryption and everything else that you would need. Check them out at cloudberrylab.com/FRD to grab a free license and learn more about what they have on offer. What?
Well, I don't know. I just loaded up this VLC thing, and it doesn't look any different, so I don't quite understand what happened.
Well, not every change is on top, Paul.
Wow. I see what you're saying.
That was a live stream edition of, yes, the interface does matter, and if you don't change it with each major release, Paul won't know the difference.
No, it's I don't mind that it looks like it used to look. What I mean is it doesn't, the buttons are like tiny because the app has never supported high DPI.
The high DPI support.
I know they have a bigger button skin you can use and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I really did use this quite a bit before, but I'm just surprised it didn't come up, supporting the UI natively. So I'll play with it. It's no big deal. It's okay.
So Paul, this is actually something you pointed out as soon as the blog post. Well, I should say about 5 minutes after Microsoft published the blog post. Earlier this week, Microsoft put out a very putting themselves on a pedestal, if you will, about how more people want to choose Surface at work than they had in the past. And they even said, hey, it's one of the most popular choices. It's what the business user wants, until you look at the report. And Paul, what did that report say?
Oh, nothing like what they described. I mean, first of all, I'm just going to really, the most damning thing about this report is they have all these charts. Like, this is what different groups of people want, and it's always like Apple's the best, and then the Surface is number 2, and then all the other PC makers are like tiny. And so apparently Surface devices are kind of aspirational. There's so many different ways you can look at this, and none of them are super positive for Microsoft, to be honest. But first of all, overwhelmingly, what these people want is a Mac, not a Surface device. I mean, it's kind of bizarre to me that they're promoting this, because it very clearly demonstrates, no matter what the target audience is, of a very small group of people, it was only 1,300 people, the Mac was overwhelmingly the first choice. Um, if you were to add up all of the other PC makers that these people named, you would also see that that outweighs Surface too. So you could also make the case that what people want overwhelmingly is a computer that's not Surface. I mean, that's another way to kind of look at the data.
Mm-hmm.
But the most hilarious thing, and again, there are many, many other things I could complain about here, but the most hilarious thing is that they call out specific PC maker names: Lenovo, HP, Dell, and then 3 or 4 others. One of the PC maker names is Sony. Sony has not sold a computer in 4 years.
Whoops.
They exited the PC business. There is a company that owns the Vio brand. They have released exactly, I think it's 2 PC models sporadically. They're very hard to find. You don't see them in retail stores. But Sony does not exist as a PC maker. So, I mean, how can you look at this thing and think it means anything? But, more to the point, literally what this is describing is, if you had any amount of money to spend, what would you buy? Yeah. And in the space of the PC world, of course, you would choose the most expensive ones, which, by the way, number 1 and 2 are Apple and Surface. Like, it's like, I would also buy a yacht. I would also own a house in the south of France. There are all these things I would do if money was no object, but money is an object. And if you look at real world sales numbers, revenues, or whatever metric you choose to arrive at, what you discover is that Surface is one of the tiniest, most boutique-ish of PC makers. It's not a big business. And I just don't understand. I don't understand why they promoted this.
Yep.
Like, they should have looked at this study and been like, okay, thanks for doing that. See you later. And never mentioned it. It makes no sense.
I really don't disagree. The timing was just kind of interesting because they'd just come off quarter earnings where, hey, their Surface revenue was flat, year over year speaking. And then they come out with this, like, more people want Surface in the office. Well, yeah, more people want Mac too than actually Surface. So.
Yes, significantly more. Yeah, significantly more. A little bit of a problem there.
A little bit. Little bit. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes.
Yeah, crazy. I try not to write about this. I'm just going to make fun of this on Twitter. I'm going to let this one slide by. But the more I looked at it, the more ludicrous it became. And then I saw the Sony thing, and I'm like, oh no, I'm writing about this. This is not okay. This is not okay. Because I feel like sometimes I just dump on Surface. I certainly feel like people think I am. And the truth is, and I just reviewed Surface Book 2 and Surface Laptop. I love these machines. You and I discussed the fact that when we travel, our go-to device is a Surface Book. It's just, we love these computers. I don't understand why they're not more popular. I get that they're expensive. I get it. But Macs are expensive too. They say they sell 5 million of those things every quarter. How could Microsoft not equal that number? They don't. They don't even come close. It's surprising.
Yep. Actually, the one thing that popped in my mind when you were saying that is the only logical thing I can think of. Obviously, it's running Mac OS, but I still think that people think that premium on Windows isn't really a thing. Maybe that's right. That's the only thing I can think of.
Okay. So, I mean, when you look at anything that is aspirational and you look at the Surface devices in particular, I would say part of the goal there was to raise the ASP, like the average selling price of PCs, right? And part of the way you do that is to inspire your partner / competitor in the PC space, Dell, HP, Lenovo, whoever, to make comparable devices, which of course they do. And I don't have data actually in front of me that says that this happened, but it would not surprise me to find out that the average selling price of PCs has risen, and maybe even pretty dramatically over the past couple of years, and is a nice turnaround to the problem that Microsoft helped cause with netbooks, right? Because once you shoot for high volume, you're lowering the ASP dramatically, and people will never want to spend more on something when they get used to buying something cheap. It's kind of a classic problem. And so, yeah, you're right. I mean, overcoming that perception that a PC is a low cost, low reliability, whatever option, but you buy it because you have to, because you can't afford a Mac, is that's a tough thing to do, and it takes a long time. So I think they've had a positive effect there, at least.
I need to grab a computer because, Paul, I think I figured out potentially how they got Windows 10, the upgrades onto so many PCs very quickly. 1 second. This will be interesting.
Okay. Has there ever been like a medical emergency on a podcast? You could kind of imagine a thing where like something happens to the person and then you have to figure out how to call 911 where they live or something. And then you don't even know their exact address, or this kind of thing must have happened.
Anyways, so I have this is the performance-based Surface Book.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really tell here. But so it's on whatever came before 1709, 1703, is that what it was?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what you can see here is this white overlay saying, hey, you need to upgrade, which we've all seen this before, but it's been sitting, I don't know, for an hour or so. There is a countdown timer on here.
That's awesome.
That's at 28 minutes. So if I don't click restart now or remind me later or defer update, it's going to automatically install the update.
So is that thing about to exit, or has it already exited support? No, 17. No, because it's from last year.
Yeah, it's whatever came before 1709. That's
right.
I've never seen this timer. Like, I wish
you should take a screenshot of that.
Well, let me. I don't know if I have ShareX on this machine or not, but I'll take at least the old school.
Oh, dude, no, dude, what are you doing? Just take a screenshot.
Well, hold on.
Why do you draw a picture of it? You've proven your artistic skills this week.
Get it out.
I can see from here your pig picture on my refrigerator, by the way. It's wonderful.
That's great. I was trying to see if I could confirm what version of Windows this is on. Remind me later.
Oh, boy. That must have been when I told the quick burger story.
Oh, this thing is still on 1607.
Okay, so it might literally have just exited support, so they're kind of forcing the issue.
Yeah, but it's kind of interesting to see that's they will, in fact, because I've seen that screen before. People are like, "Oh God, what do I got to do now?"
Sure.
I didn't realize there was an actual countdown timer to D-Day. When
they should sign an alarm. It should be like a James Bond villain lair when it's going to self-destruct, and it's like wah wah wah. Yeah.
GT something, well, I'm not going to read his username, says the upgrade portion is new with 1709. It pulls any version of Windows 10 to 1709 directly. So that explains it. It doesn't explain why Microsoft is putting a countdown timer to doing that. But
well, I guess if you're using it, you have the opportunity to start closing things down, and
or whatever. Anyways, one of the things we do on Friday is we take a look back at some of the comments on all the posts and try to pull up some ones that are more relevant, funny, humor, whatever you want to call it. On Paul's post where he says UWP isn't dead, but that's okay. Or UWP is dead, and that's okay. This person has a great username, by the way. It's their username is WP7Mango, which that was an update for Windows Phone way back. His point is, it says, it doesn't matter whether it's UWP or PWA. That doesn't really matter. The main point here is that the future is not Win32.
There you go. Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah.
A little bit of common sense.
Yep.
Out on the internets. Good for him. That's true. That is true.
I read that as like, you know what? He's not wrong. He's exactly right.
Yeah. There's also this kind of notion that this new thing comes, and so everything old is dead again. I mean, you use Windows every day. You can see old stuff on there every day. A command prompt is still there, whatever. Technology doesn't just die. It sits there. It's deprecated. It takes a long time for that stuff to go away. So, Win32, they've been, they're trying. They're trying, but yeah, it's still there. So, yeah, that's true. Anything modern that can help us get off of the Win32 teat is absolutely something positive for Windows. No doubt about it.
And the next comment here comes from Ben Stat on the post about the latest Windows 10 release that came out this week, where he was replying to somebody who said that the game bar is useless. And he says, so says a handful of vocal throat readers who are conspicuously not PC gamers. I'm not a PC gamer either, but by coincidence, I needed to record something on my screen earlier today and found the game bar extremely convenient that Windows 10 could handle this natively without having to download some third-party crapware.
Yeah. That it's funny because that's a modern version of an age-old Windows tip, which is that there's always something in the system that can record, and it's not really designed for that purpose, but you can still use it. Remember, there was a troubleshooting tool, actually it's probably still in Windows, that allows you to record the steps that you take so you can duplicate a problem. You can send it to your IT support people, or you can send it to Microsoft or whatever. You can just use it to record the screen. It just kind of works that way. And yeah, that's right. You have to fool the game bar in a way by telling it that the thing you're recording is a game. But yes, you can use it to record anything. Of course, it's good.
Yep, it's good just tip. I don't know. People were really jumping all over that the game bar was updated, and it's one of those things. Just because you don't use it doesn't mean it's not of value.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
So, you got anything else for today, Paul?
Well, you just provided two incredibly logical bits of commentary provided by our readers. I don't mean to say it's a rare treat. I don't mean but I mean, when you think about the internet in general and comments and everything, a lot of it is just crap,
No, it's
heartening. It's nice.
Yeah, no, it's there. Not every comment, because there's definitely people who troll in the comments on a very consistent basis, but there's a lot of good stuff that goes on in the comments section. If you don't dabble in there too often, recommend that you do, but obviously reader beware that not everything is as insightful and as
yes, the level of insight will vary wildly for sure. No, I don't have too much else going on today. Obviously I just got this phone, so I'll take some pictures of that and get it set up, and I'll get to reviewing that. What about you?
I'm actually home alone with the kid. Well, the kid's at school right now, so it is a mommy-free weekend.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where is she?
Yeah, she had some last-minute travel, so she is gone with her sister,
wow.
And I'm at home with the kid. So
right.
it's going to be
a good time.
Pizza and chicken nuggets, and
if I hear anything about a neighborhood fire that started in a house somewhere near Cincinnati, I'll ping you to make sure you're okay.
I'll make sure to save the artwork first when the house is burning.
Yes, save our future.
Much like you. So when this picture, which I'm sure Paul has tweeted out, actually I know he has, I showed it to my wife, who then laughed at me for a solid 2 hours.
Oh, dude. I forwarded you the comments my daughter made. I missed a huge opportunity in not recording her incredulous reaction to this. The first thing she said, literally, I mean, she was laughing, and she said, "How old is he?" Her reaction was priceless. It was really good.
As my 4-year-old would say, and she actually came to my defense. She said, "Boys and girls have different talents," because my wife was laughing too hard about my lack of talent.
Wow.
Yep.
I think you said on Skype or something, everyone has talent in different areas. And I said, well, if you find out what yours is, please let me know, because
you see what people I have to put up with every day. If you ever wonder why I'm depressed and just sit in the corner of my house and drink scotch, you will now know why. Because I have to work with this guy. You make one minor gaffe in your life.
It's just like a tiger waiting for the gazelle to screw up.
This had nothing to do with my resume.
Drink the water.
Anything
Drink
I've written. And yet here we are talking about it.
Well, to be fair, I am also surrounded by the same people, so yes. It's not like you're, sweet Polly purebred over there. I mean, you're doing the same thing, so it all works out in the end.
That should be the name of this episode: is Sweet Polly Purebred. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up here today, folks. As a reminder, today's show is brought to you not by Sonos, but by Cloudberry Lab. Check them out at cloudberrylab.com/FRD, and we'll catch you right back here next time.